Welcome back to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. We're coming to you live from day 3 of the Singapore Fintech Festival. And joining me for this segment, we have Veronica Tan. She's the Director of the Infrastructure Group at the Infocomm Media Development Agency right here in Singapore. We're going to take a look at the developing blockchain ecosystem in Singapore. Veronica, thanks so much for joining us at the Fintech Festival. Now, the state of blockchain adoption in Singapore has been quite incredible.
Yes, I think it has been quite heartening to see that. I've only been in this space for about 2 years, and I've seen the ecosystem mature over time. When we first started about 2 years ago, I think a lot of the attention was in the financial sector with trade finance use cases coming up. And I think in the past 2 years, we have seen blockchain going beyond the finance sector. We've seen projects in trade and supply chain, because Singapore also happens to be a trading hub, in AI, digital media, in art, in energy and healthcare. So we've been studying also Singapore's progress compared to the other nations. There was a Deloitte Global Blockchain Survey done in 2019, interviewing key executives on their thoughts about how important blockchain is in their organizational strategic priorities. And they had a breakdown of Singapore versus China, United States as well as Israel. And interestingly enough, I think executives in Singapore tended to be very supportive, placing it fairly high in their organizational priorities, and also giving the technology a bit more time to evolve and mature before they move and take this forward. A separate study done by LinkedIn on Global Future of Skills survey, they also showed that amongst the various nations, I think Singapore has actually got blockchain as one of the top rising skills. So I think from this perspective, my own personal experience and some of the industry surveys done globally, it does show that Singapore has really matured in the past few years in terms of blockchain adoption, in terms of understanding and pushing the technology forward.
Yeah, I think it's quite incredible that it's moving just beyond cryptocurrencies
Yes.
and financial services, and it really is going to all kinds of verticals that do have supply chains and logistics, which is just about every industry. So to wrap up here, what are some of the efforts that IMDA is doing to work with Singapore to continue to grow and develop the blockchain ecosystem?
So I think what we have done recently, about a month ago, is to launch a Singapore Blockchain Landscape Map, which is a showcase of some of the key companies involved in blockchain projects in Singapore, organized by sectors. Not all of them are in applications layer, some of them could be operating at the infrastructure and protocol layer. So this map has been a very useful visual for visitors who come to Singapore, want to understand a little bit more about the blockchain landscape and the projects here. Just yesterday, at Joseph Lubin's talk, he mentioned that he has launched the Singapore Ecosystem Report. So that is a lot more elaboration beyond the landscape map. Blockchain is a very interesting technology because it requires collaboration across multiple parties to work together. The other thing that we have done is actually to come up with the concept of blockchain engagement platform, and the whole idea is to be a digital nexus connecting different stakeholder groups in blockchain, from the enterprises who want to get started to enterprises who are already building blockchain networks, and even other groups such as academia and so on. So this has culminated in the form of Open Notes, a blockchain engagement platform that is putting together all these things. And Open Notes is also our partner when we launched the blockchain landscape map, as well as the ecosystem report to be the one hosting it. It has been quite useful so far already in connecting various stakeholder groups within the blockchain ecosystem. And recently at Fintech Festival, a lot of international interest from delegations all around the world. And what we have recently discussed last night is also some potential collaborations to hook up with the Dutch blockchain ecosystem through the Dutch Blockchain Coalition. So I think we're very heartened and very touched to see that there's been such strong interest in Singapore and in the ecosystem players here.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for joining us at the
Thank
Fintech
you so
Festival.
much.
And thank you for joining us throughout the day on Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.